A simple act of honesty can sign a death warrant. When a struggling waitress chased a stranger into the freezing rain to return a dropped wallet, she had no idea it belonged to the city's most dangerous phantom. One good deed was all it took to rewrite her destiny. The neon sign above the midnight griddle buzzed with a persistent, annoying hum, casting a sickly red glow over the wet pavement of Larkin Street. It was 2:15 a.m. on a brutal Chicago Tuesday. Inside, Maya Ortiz wiped down the laminate counter for the fourth time, her shoulders aching with a dull, familiar fatigue. At 24, Maya was running on empty, juggling a grueling nursing program at UIC and double shifts at the diner, just to keep the eviction notices at bay. The bell above the door chimed. The man who walked in didn't belong in a greasy diner at 2 in the morning. He wore a tailored charcoal overcoat that looked like it cost more than her rent, and his presence seemed to pull all the air out of the room. He didn't look at the menu. He sat in the corner booth, ordered a black coffee from a trembling teenage busboy, and spent the next 20 minutes staring out at the rain-streaked window. Maya watched him from the register. There was a dangerous stillness about him, a predatory calm that made the hair on the back of her neck stand up. When he finally rose to leave, tossing a crisp $50 bill onto the table for a $2 coffee, Maya let out a quiet breath of relief. But as he pushed through the glass door, something slipped from the inner pocket of his coat. A sleek, hand-stitched leather wallet hit the linoleum with a heavy thud. Maya didn't think. Instinct took over. She scooped up the wallet, expecting it to feel like ordinary leather, but it was strange and heavy in her hand. As she grabbed it, the fold flipped open. There was no driver's license, no credit cards. Instead, her eyes landed on 3 things that would burn themselves into her memory: a thick stack of $100 bills, a matte black titanium card engraved with nothing but a 10-digit phone number, and a folded Polaroid photograph. The photograph had slipped halfway out. Maya couldn't help but see it. A heavy-set man stepping out of a Cadillac, a thick, jagged X drawn over his face in red marker. Her breath hitched. Every survival instinct she'd developed growing up on the South Side screamed at her to throw the wallet in the trash and walk away. But her mother had raised her with a rigid, almost stubborn sense of integrity. "Hey!" Maya shouted, bursting out the diner door into the freezing rain. "Wait!" The man had already reached an idling, blacked-out SUV at the curb. At the sound of her voice, 2 massive figures materialized from the shadows, hands moving instantly toward their jackets. Maya froze, the icy rain soaking through her thin uniform. The man in the charcoal coat turned around. Under the dim streetlight, Maya saw his face clearly for the first time. Sharp, aristocratic features, and eyes so dark they looked like they had no bottom. He raised one gloved hand, and the 2 men stopped instantly, though their gaze stayed locked on Maya with a kind of lethal patience. "You dropped this," Maya said, voice shaking as she held out the wallet. The man didn't move at first. He studied her the way a man studies a math problem he already suspects the answer to. Then he closed the distance between them. Up close he smelled like cedar and something colder. Money, maybe, or the particular stillness of a man who never hurried. He took the wallet from her trembling fingers. He didn't check the cash. He just looked at her. "Did you open it?" His voice was a low, gravel baritone that sent a shiver down her spine that had nothing to do with the cold. Lying to a man like this felt more dangerous than the truth. "It fell open," Maya whispered. "I saw the money. And the picture." Silence stretched between them, thick enough to choke on. Maya braced herself, half expecting one of the men in the shadows to close the distance. "There's over $10,000 in this clip," the man said quietly. "You work a diner at 2 in the morning. Your shoes are worn through at the heel. Why didn't you keep it?" Maya swallowed hard, lifting her chin despite the fear crawling up her spine. "Because it isn't mine, and I don't want anything to do with whatever it is you do." Something shifted in the man's expression, something dangerously close to amusement. He glanced at the cheap plastic name tag pinned to her apron. "Honesty is a rare currency in my city, Maya," he said softly. He stepped back, and the shadows seemed to fold around him. Let's hope it doesn't get you killed. He climbed into the SUV, and the vehicle slid soundlessly into the rain, leaving Maya standing on the curb, with her heart hammering against her ribs. If this kind of story is your thing, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. For 3 days, Maya jumped at every shadow. Every time a dark sedan rolled past her apartment building, her breath caught in her throat. By Friday, though, the fear had started to fade, worn down by the crushing weight of ordinary life. That morning, she logged into her student portal, bracing herself to beg for a payment plan on the $4,500 tuition balance, threatening to get her dropped from her nursing program. She blinked at the screen, refreshed it. Account balance, 0.00. Maya stared in disbelief. It had to be a glitch. She called the bursar's office and sat on hold for 20 minutes. Yes, Miss Ortiz, the tired clerk on the other end confirmed. Your balance was paid in full yesterday afternoon via a cashier's check. You're fully cleared for the semester. Maya hung up, her stomach twisting into a cold, tight knot. A frantic knock shattered her thoughts. She opened the door to find her older brother, Eli, looking like a cornered animal. His left eye was swollen shut. Dried blood caked along a split lip. Before she could say a word, he pushed past her, locking the deadbolt and sliding the chain into place. Eli, what happened to you? I messed up, Maya. I messed up bad. He paced the cramped living room, panic rolling off him in waves. I owe 30 grand. They said if I don't have it by tonight, they start taking pieces of me. Her blood ran cold. 30,000. To who? Sal Renner. Eli sobbed, sinking onto the ragged sofa. The North Side crew. The name struck a terrifying chord. She remembered whispers at the diner about Sal Renner, a ruthless loan shark who broke legs for $100. But worse, she remembered the Polaroid, a heavy-set man stepping out of a Cadillac, a red X over his face. Before she could put it together out loud, heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. Someone pounded on the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Eli Ortiz, we know you're in there, rat. Eli curled into himself, weeping. Maya stood frozen, the door splintered inward with a deafening crack as 2 massive men kicked it off its hinges, crowbars already in hand. Please, Maya begged, stepping in front of her brother. Please, just give him more time. Time's up, sweetheart, the larger one sneered, grabbing a fistful of her hair and slamming her against the wall. But maybe we take a down payment out of you instead. Maya squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the blow. It never landed. Instead, a sickening crunch echoed through the room, followed by a choked gasp. She opened her eyes to chaos, the 2 men on the floor, and standing over them, 3 men in impeccably tailored suits moving with terrifying, synchronized efficiency. One of them, a man with a scarred jaw and flat, cold eyes, casually wiped blood off his knuckles with a silk handkerchief. Diego. A smooth, authoritative voice called from the hallway. Get this trash out of my sight. The men dragged the groaning loan sharks out the door. Then, stepping carefully over the splintered wood frame, he walked in, the man from the diner. In the harsh light of her apartment, he looked even more imposing. He took in the peeling wallpaper, the crying brother, and finally Maya, shaking against the wall. Damian Voss, Eli whispered, his voice hollowed out with dread. He looked at Maya in horror. What did you do? Damian Voss, head of the Voss organization, the most powerful, untouchable crime boss on the East Side. Damian ignored Eli completely. He crossed the room to Maya, closing the space between them, his dark eyes locked on hers. Are you hurt? The question was soft, but it carried the weight of an order. No, Maya choked out. What is happening? Damian reached into his coat and pulled out a sleek silver lighter, turning it slowly between his fingers. 3 nights ago, you saw a photograph. The man in it was Sal Renner. He's been a thorn in my side for a long time. He glanced at Eli with open contempt. Renner was so busy tearing up the city looking for your brother's debt, he left his own flank exposed. My men removed the thorn last night. Renner is no longer a problem. Maya gasped, the pieces clicking into place. The missing loan shark. The paid tuition. You paid my school. I reward loyalty. I reward honesty, Damian said, his gaze returning to her. In my world, Maya, everyone takes. They steal, they lie, they betray. But you held $10,000 in your hands. You caught a glimpse of a world that terrifies you, and you still gave it back. You're an anomaly. I don't want a reward, Maya said, voice shaking but resolute. Please, just leave us alone. Damian stepped closer, his presence wrapping around her like something with weight. He reached out, his thumb brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear, a gesture surprisingly gentle, though the threat under it was absolute. That isn't how this works, he murmured. By returning that wallet, you proved your character. By helping me eliminate Renner without meaning to, you proved your value. Your brother's debt is forgiven. In exchange, he now belongs to me. He'll work in my warehouses until every cent is repaid. Eli whimpered but didn't dare speak. And me? Maya asked, tears finally spilling over. What about me? Damian's eyes darkened, something possessive flaring in their depths. You, Maya, are under my personal protection. No one in this city will ever touch you again. Your debts are cleared. Your life is secure. He leaned in, his voice a low murmur against her ear. But make no mistake, I paid for that security, and I always collect on my investments. You belong to me now. For the next 2 months, Maya's life became a beautifully built prison. True to his word, Damian wrapped her in an impenetrable cocoon of safety. She was relocated from her cramped South Side apartment to a sprawling, high-security condo downtown. Her bank account was flush, her fridge was always stocked, and her grueling diner shifts were a thing of the past. She could finally focus fully on her clinicals, excelling in her trauma rotation at Rush University Medical Center. The price of that comfort was constant surveillance. Every morning, a silent, broad-shouldered driver named Marcus took her to the hospital. Every evening, he brought her home. She saw Damian only in fragments. The black SUV parked across from the hospital entrance, a bouquet of white orchids on her kitchen counter, a brief, intense phone call at midnight where he asked only, "Are you safe, Maya?" Despite the fear that had once paralyzed her, Maya found herself waiting for those calls. There was a strange, gravitational pull to Damian. He was a monster to the rest of the city, a phantom who orchestrated violence with a flick of his wrist. But with her, he was endlessly careful, speaking in low, measured tones that made her pulse climb. She was the one untouched thing in a blood-stained empire. That fragile piece shattered on a freezing Thursday in late November. Maya was studying for finals when the elevator chimed. She expected Marcus with groceries. Instead, the doors burst open, and Eli stumbled in, worse off than the day he'd fled Sal Renner. His face was a patchwork of bruises, one arm clutched tight against his ribs. "Eli!" Maya dropped her textbook and rushed toward him. "How did you get past security? I know the blind spots." He was wheezing, eyes darting around the apartment. "Maya, pack a bag. Right now. We have to leave the country." Maya froze, her nursing instincts fighting through the panic. She grabbed his shoulders. "What did you do?" "Damian gave you a chance, Eli. He forgave your debt. A chance." Eli let out a hysterical, blood-choked laugh. "It's a labor camp, Maya. I was loading crates of untraceable weapons 14 hours a day. I couldn't take it. I found a way out. I made a deal." "A deal with who?" "Connor Doyle." The name dropped like a stone into the quiet room. Maya didn't know the fine details of the city's underworld, but even she had heard whispers of the Doyle syndicate in the trauma ward. A ruthless faction, aggressively encroaching on Voss territory, leaving a trail of bodies behind. "I gave Doyle the shipping schedules," Eli confessed, tears streaming down his face. "I told him when Damian's biggest shipment of the year was coming into the port. Doyle hit it tonight, took everything. In exchange, he promised to get us out. He gave me a burner and a car. We have to go, before Voss finds out." Maya backed away like he was radioactive. You sold him out. Do you understand what you've done? You didn't just sign your own death warrant, Eli. You signed mine. Before Eli could answer, the penthouse windows shattered inward with a deafening crash. Tear gas canisters bounced across the rug, hissing thick white smoke into the air. Maya screamed, covering her face as the smoke seared her lungs. Through the haze, armed men in black tactical gear rappelled in from the balcony. Eli lunged for the kitchen, but a rifle butt caught him square in the jaw and dropped him unconscious. Maya scrambled backward, but a hand closed in her hair and yanked her to her feet. She thrashed and coughed as smoke filled her throat. Well, well, a sneering voice cut through the chaos. A tall man with a jagged scar down his neck stepped through the smoke, holstering a suppressed pistol. Connor Doyle. He looked her up and down, satisfaction curling his mouth. So this is Voss's little pet, the untouchable nurse. Let me go, Maya choked out, still fighting the hand gripping her. Doyle grabbed her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. Damian Voss has ruled this city for years because he never had a weakness. Cared about nothing but business. But my people tell me he's been spending a fortune keeping a little waitress safe in a glass tower. He smiled. He made a mistake, sweetheart. He let himself care. He turned to his men. Bag her. Leave the brother. When Voss finds him, he'll know exactly where to come. Tonight the king falls. A rough canvas sack came down over her head, plunging her into darkness. The last thing she felt was a needle in her neck before the world dropped away. Maya woke to the sting of cold water against her face. She gasped, lungs burning, blinking against harsh industrial light. She was tied to a metal chair in what looked like an abandoned meatpacking plant. Rusted hooks hung from chains overhead, and the air smelled like old blood and ammonia. Connor Doyle sat across from her on a wooden crate, peeling an apple with a hunting knife. A dozen armed men paced the perimeter. Morning sunshine, Doyle said, tossing a slice into his mouth. You've been out 3 hours, long enough for your boyfriend to notice you're gone. He called the burner I left with your idiot brother. Maya pulled against the zip ties, ignoring the bite of plastic into her wrists. Damian will kill you. Doyle laughed. He's going to try. He's marching straight into my fortress, blind with rage. Men make mistakes when they're angry, Maya. He's walking into a slaughterhouse. As if on cue, the heavy steel doors at the far end rattled. Not a knock, but the rhythmic thud of a breaching charge. Doyle's men raised their rifles, ducking behind concrete pillars. Get ready, Doyle barked. A deafening explosion tore the doors from their hinges, hurling them across the warehouse and crushing 2 men instantly. Smoke and debris filled the entrance. From the haze, the Voss organization descended like a plague. It wasn't a firefight. It was an execution. Damian's men, led by the brutal Diego, cut down Doyle's mercenaries before they could return fire. The warehouse roared with gunfire and the screams of dying men. Through the chaos, Maya saw him. Damian Voss walked into the crossfire like something out of a war. No tailored suit this time, a black tactical vest, his eyes stripped of their usual calculated calm. He was pure, unadulterated violence, moving forward with lethal accuracy, his gaze locked entirely on her. Kill him, Doyle screamed, seeing his ambush collapse. He raised his pistol toward Damian, but Damian fired first, twice. One round shattered Doyle's knee, the second tore through his shoulder. He crumpled to the concrete, shrieking. The gunfire cut off as suddenly as it started. Doyle's surviving men dropped their weapons and surrendered, as Diego and the rest secured the room. Damian didn't spare Doyle a glance. He sprinted to Maya, dropping his rifle and drawing a knife to slice through her restraints. Maya, his voice came out rough, fractured. He pulled her into his chest, his hands shaking, the untouchable crime boss, trembling. Are you hurt? Did they touch you? I'm okay, Maya sobbed into his vest. I'm okay, Damian. I'm so sorry. It was Eli. I know. He pulled back to cup her face, his hands still stained with blood. Eli is dealt with. He's on a freighter headed south. He will never set foot in this city again. He will never put you in danger again. Maya nodded, a strange relief washing through her. The brother she knew was gone. He had sold her to save himself. A wet cough broke the moment. Connor Doyle, bleeding out on the concrete, raised a hidden backup revolver with a trembling hand. "Voss!" he spat. Maya saw the movement over Damian's shoulder. "Damian, look out!" He spun, shielding her with his own body. A single shot rang out. Damian grunted, breath catching as he drew his sidearm in one motion and put a bullet between Connor Doyle's eyes. Doyle slumped backward, dead. Damian swayed, his hand flying to his side. Blood spread rapidly through the fabric of his shirt below the vest. "Damian!" Maya caught him as his knees buckled. Diego rushed forward, eyes wide. "Boss is hit. Get the medic." "No time," Maya said, and something in her voice cut clean through the panic. The frightened waitress was gone. The trauma nurse had taken over. "Lay him flat. Give me your jacket, Diego. Now." They lowered Damian to the floor. Maya tore his shirt open, exposing a jagged wound near his abdomen. The bleeding was heavy, but the color told her it had missed the major vessels. "Eyes on me," she ordered, packing the wound with Diego's coat and bearing down with steady pressure. "You are not dying today. Do you hear me?" Damian looked up at her, breath shallow, a faint, proud smile touching his mouth. "I have an excellent nurse," he murmured, smearing a streak of his own blood across her cheek with 2 fingers. For a terrifying hour, Maya worked alongside the syndicate's private doctor in the back of a speeding SUV, stabilizing his vitals. By the time they reached the Voss estate's private medical wing, he was out of danger. 3 days later, Damian woke in his massive bedroom, the room washed in the gold light of late afternoon. He turned his head. Maya sat in a chair beside the bed, a heavy anatomy textbook open in her lap. She wasn't wearing her waitress uniform, or the frightened clothes of a captive. She wore a simple, silk blouse, her posture easy, completely at home in the middle of an empire built on violence. "You stayed," Damian rasped, his voice weak but edged with surprise. "Eli is gone. Doyle is dead. Your debts are clear. You could have walked away." Maya closed her textbook and stood, crossing to the edge of the bed. She met his eyes without a trace of the fear she'd carried that first rainy night. She had seen the monster beneath the tailored suits. She had watched him tear an entire syndicate apart and take a bullet just to keep her breathing. She understood now that the world outside was full of men like her brother, willing to trade anyone for their own skin. But in this dark, violent place, she had found a man whose loyalty didn't bend. "I told you once that honesty is a rare currency," Maya said softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. She rested her palm over his heart. "So I'll be honest with you now, Damian. I don't want to run anymore." His dark eyes flared, something possessive and hungry moving behind them. He reached up, threading his fingers into her hair, drawing her down until her lips hovered just above his. "If you stay now, Maya," he said, low and fierce, "there's no going back. You'll be mine, every part of what I own." "I know," Maya murmured, and closed the distance, pressing her mouth to his. The kiss sealed it. She was no longer just the honest girl who'd chased a stranger into the rain to return a lost wallet. Maya Ortiz, waitress, was gone. In her place stood the one thing the Voss Empire had never had, a queen who ruled the shadows beside the phantom who'd rewritten her life. If this dark, high-stakes love story kept you hooked, don't keep it to yourself. Smash that like button and share it with a friend who loves a good Mafia romance.